Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, everybody. Good morning.
Hey, hello, welcome.
Yeah, it is a beautiful fall day, and we're about ready to hit some rain. And I'm like kind of excited because we were talking about we haven't had any rain here for ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Utah is pretty dry most of the summer. So we're looking forward to that. I've got like a rush to finish up some yard projects. Water got turned off for the secondary. Those of you who live in areas that understand what secondary water is it's a different water. It comes from a reservoir than our culinary water. So that got shut off yesterday, and we're getting ready to just wrap things up for the season. I love being outside and projects, and Jim doesn't. He loves being outside, but he's not a project person.
Well, it's not that I'm just not happy about winter. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like the cold.
I know.
Is there something you can do about that?
Well, we have like fireplace and like hot chocolate and, other things like that we can use to kind of keep a little bit warm. Or, there's something that they have these things that fly in the air, and they will take you to exotic and warm places.
Oh, okay.
They're called airplanes.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you should do
and
that.
So it's just about, trying to.
Poor Michelle has to listen to me complain all winter.
I do. Well, I mean, it's understandable when in the winter time, in total, we probably, I think the first year we moved here, we shoveled 5 feet of snow in about a month and a half.
She says she did help some. Yeah. You were out there.
And then we got a snowblower this year. Yeah. We did it with a shovel.
Yeah.
That first year.
Season, yeah.
That first season. Mm-hmm. So we bought a battery operated, it's a heavy duty snow thrower, and all of our neighbors are like, that is not going to get through stuff, but it did.
It did the first time.
Yeah. It's a lot more quiet. Doesn't have all the fumes, trying to keep my honey from having to ingest lots of gas fumes. Yeah. So, and me, because I'll use it too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. All right. Enough about the weather. Announcements. We do have the BHPH dealer forum is coming up November 10th through 12th. And I believe today, if you're going to go, is the last day that you can use, or you can get $200 off the registration.
Right.
I don't see anything that says you have to use any kind of code. No. But today's the last day.
So I put
if you're going to go.
URL on the screen, hit NIADA, look for BHPH Dealer Forum, get yourself registered for that.
Yeah, New Orleans, and that's going to be, again, November 10th through 12th. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have like to go hang out in New Orleans, this is a great opportunity.
So for those listening, New Orleans is the same place as New Orleans, which is the same place as New Orleans.
I'm from Seattle.
Yeah.
And okay, so when you talk about accents, it's interesting because I once, did I read it or did I hear it on a podcast? I mean, when you're watching podcasts or reading, I read a lot. That the Seattle area is one of the places people like to have telemarketers or whatever come from, because they have one of the most neutral accents of the nation. Tip it,
good to know.
Like, yeah, I know. It's like,
I believe you.
Silly facts. So it's like I wear it with a badge of honor. I guess. I tried using y'all on Jim last night, and he goes, "There are not multiple people sitting here. Why did you call me y'all?" And he's like, "I don't want you to get embarrassed." And I said, "You know what? I'm just trying it on for size." And I'm every once in a while something will spill out that I get teased about. Jim loves me, but he teases me.
I do, and that's a sign of how much I love you. If I'm not teasing you, right?
Exactly. Right. Great sense of humor. I love that we get to do this every day, because most people that have experienced Jim in like a conference or whatever, he's really serious. And I think I've told this story, but it bears
no.
telling again. When we were dating, we've been dating a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. And one of my non-negotiables was a great sense of humor. And he just hadn't pulled it out of his pocket. And
Mhm.
so I was talking to my best friend and I said, I don't know. I really, really like this person, but he's not funny. And for some magical reason, he brought it the next date. And I was like, done. This is my person.
And for
So
me, my big non-negotiable is you have to have a non-distinguishable accent. So it worked out. It worked out.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to cover before we dive?
No, I think that we're good. I think
yeah.
we decided on our
Yeah.
V8 Plus meeting for our V8 dealers out there. And so that we decided on
Give 'em a-
October 31st, we're
Yeah,
going to cover
let's give 'em
pay
a
plans
pay
and be a
plans.
dealer only conversation. So
Yeah.
that's the newest thing on the calendar. And then, of course,
Yeah.
got more meetings coming up.
Yeah.
Got 3 more. Still
It's-
time to get in a group.
Yeah. The conversation about pay plans, it's one that is its best dealer only.
Yeah.
Because we see on social medias that people are excuse me, posting questions about pay plans. And there's a lot of people that are just in the industry. They're not the dealer, they're the sales manager, or they're the collections person or whatever. So it's just a good conversation to have with dealers only, because it's kind of one of those unwritten things. You don't tell your neighbor what you're making.
Yeah. And how can it work? I mean, you go out on social media or you sit in a 20 group meeting and been like, oh, well, some manager in Iowa finds out that a manager doing the same job in Tennessee is getting paid more. So what's that outcome? I mean, at the minimum, it's a
creates
morale.
friction.
Yeah, it may make somebody decide to want to go move to Tennessee, or maybe go looking for another job in their community where they can get paid a little bit more because they just feel undervalued, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's hard to make everybody happy.
And so that's a V8 Plus conversation, and there's still room. Yep. I mean, we're ready. We have a couple of moderators that are ready to rock and roll, have been attending some of the meetings. So we're ready to scale and
we can add, but we've got room in some of the groups now. So any portfolio size, happy to talk about V8 with folks. Okay. So
all right, let's go. Let's do this.
Okay. So quick update on our today's conversation is around the request we made of all the DMS providers back in early June. I looked that up. I think it was June 6th that we sent an email openly. So just to remind everybody, those who didn't catch the episode, we sent an email openly, carbon copied openly we
talked about it on the morning show right after it got sent. So it was kind of like a public announcement. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. And it was just kind of, another step of kind of at White Hat Way, one of our kind of pillar principles is transparency. We're going to be transparent. So we openly made the request of everybody. And we did that because the report that we're asking for is something that we know all dealers could benefit from it. We know all software users could benefit from it. And the reason this kind of came up as a result of V8. So I think if people asking this, they think, well, this is for your V8 dealer users. No, it's for all
everybody.
Users. It's for all dealers everywhere and managers who are, using these kind of reports or need these kind of reports. Accountants would benefit from the report that we requested. So the idea then, V8 just kind of brought it to the fore, like in trying to help dealers do a soft reconciliation.
Yeah. And it's not, it kind of brought it to not just a one-off with, each of our clients, but this is something that it's getting some traction because there are numbers of dealers that are understanding as we're asking for the data for V8 groups. It's like there is value in having this reconciliation.
Yeah. And for those DMS providers that responded, I'm going to do the best I can to give you the list of all the DMS providers that we sent the invitation to. The first pass, we missed a few. We didn't know them. We didn't know who to contact. And so we added some more, as we've gone along.
Can I just preface something though, too? Most of these DMSs, I mean, they're companies, and they have their own roadmap. And those of you who Okay, roadmap. Roadmap is for their tech side or development of new products side. Roadmap is where we're planning out what we're going to work on, when it's going to go through all the different stages that it requires to get it to be something that can actually be launched as a product. And coming from the tech space, it is not a quick thing. And even though it seems like it's just a report, it has to be fit in a roadmap. And sometimes it's, I know with Fraser, I think it was Fraser, they said, hey, we can't do it right now because their roadmap was just jam packed, but they will, it's something for them to fit in when they can.
Right.
But just want to, for all of you, I know that we brought this up in June. It's been 5 months, and a 5-month turnaround for tech is phenomenal.
Okay.
It's, I mean, usually when you're trying to do something like that, especially if you're fitting it in last minute, it's so you're getting a little bit of here, a little bit of there. There's, this isn't super complex, which there are some things that I've worked on projects in that space that, I mean, it takes years to get it completed, but it's because there are so many other moving pieces. So I just want to say, even though, some of our listeners may go like, it's been a long time. It's not been a long time in the world of how long it takes for something like that to get put on a roadmap, find the man hours to do it, and then produce it and have it tested.
Okay.
So
yeah, with some of them we're in the testing stage. I think my other preface to the thing would be, one of the things that makes this a little more difficult than maybe to just run a collections report or to run a sales report or even create a new sales report or collections report is that this report that we're requesting would actually be pulling data from multiple locations, multiple modules in a system. So I think of them as modules. You've got an inventory module, you've got a sales module, you've got collections and receivables modules, which, probably would be in the same place. But but the idea here is that it's not so easy for them to create a report that will pull from all those places. But we thought it was important, and we know it's important after watching dealers. And I should have brought the slide, but we've got one dealer in particular. I shared the dealer's actual summary report that they'd used to submit their data to us for V8. And I said, this highlights why this is a problem.
You sent an email to the actual DMS.
Provider, And so I don't need to say the name, but I said, I didn't even put the dealer's name on it. I just said, here's what the dealer is remitting to us. When we ask them to, so let me put on the screen here. This is really what we're asking for in the way of a report in simplest form. What is the opening? And so let me first say this too. We know that in a DMS system, if I'm a dealer and you're my customer, I have an obligation as a dealer to know what your principal balance, let's just keep it simple, buy here, pay here, simple interest. I have an obligation to know what your principal balance is at all times. If you come in and ask for a payoff, I need to know exactly what your principal balance is, accrued interest, any late charges, blah, blah, blah. Here's your payoff. Like I'm totally
You're obligated to do that. Yeah.
So we know the DMS systems do that. We know that DMS systems are tracking a customer's principal balance. We want to believe that everybody's calculating principal balances accurately. We think they probably are. Now, that's not the problem. It's not that the calculations in the software are incorrect. So let's make that clear. It's not that they don't know that. It's just that the real problem is kind of a disconnect between education, training, and to some other extent, like, look, I'm a coach analyst. Like I see things from a different angle. I'm working with reports and looking and kind of going on the back side of the business, if you will, and looking at certain things that maybe a day-to-day manager wouldn't look at. So that's expected. But what I'm saying is this information that we're requesting is really what I have on the screen here. The report, and it has some other line items in there to kind of allow for other kind of adjustments, moving back and forth from the RFC to the dealership or what have you. But essentially what we're asking for is for a period, which is most likely a calendar month, what did the opening principal in the entire portfolio, where did it stand at the start of the month? Okay. So, by the way, not every system really allows you to auto-generate and capture that number to get a snapshot of your receivables balance at a point in time.
Yeah, we actually talked about that a little bit this morning because we had a client years ago that we had them pull that report, and it just did not their opening principal or their principal, it didn't equate just right because the DMS rolled in the sales tax because it was out of Texas, and so they were showing the collected sales tax as part of principal, and so it's like that's not right.
Or you mean the
uncollected sales tax as part of principal.
Yeah, and so that kind of muddied the waters. Like we because we don't collect interest, we shouldn't collect interest on sales tax, and so that's a different thing. So it shouldn't really be in that number. So this is really why. And so I guess my point is when I sent the screenshot of the spreadsheet that does the math on this thing I have on the screen, opening principal, for those not seeing the screen, opening principal plus new principal, which would be amount financed on new contracts, again, staying just in buy here, pay here track, collected minus collected principal, right? We're going to collect some off of the books. We're going to charge some off when we have a charge off. That's a gross amount, whatever the customer's principal balance would have been at the time the charge off occurred. And then plus or minus any other adjustments. So that could be any number of things. It can be, some systems would call it a write down. You might have reversals of prior sales. You might have other things that would drop in there. But we're simply trying to get to this report that says, in a summary form, if I run it for the month of September, where did I open?
And where did I close?
Where did I close? And what were all the entries in between that affected that principal?
It should balance out.
It should balance to other reports in the system.
So you were talking about a dealer that you were working with, and you sent an email to the DMS and showing what it was that was being submitted, and how far off was that? It was six digits. I remember you saying it was 6 digits.
It's been over six figures. In fairness, it's a $25 million portfolio, but we're asking our dealers to do, we put the calculation on the sheet so that they can see, do your numbers reconcile? And so some of the dealers are figuring out through this process kind of what's missing and how to get closer, and that's good. But it's like we're just asking to get to plus or minus 1%, but in some cases, 1% of a $25 million portfolio is how are we going to walk away from that and not know? For us, obviously in V8, we're just trying to make sure that the numbers correlate, that we've got clean numbers, and that when we look at the numbers for dealer number 7, that they're prepared in the same way that dealer number 3 is, as an example. So we're just trying to make sure that those kind of correlate, right? So that, but if we're that dealer that we're talking about last month, in the month of September, their numbers were off by $400,000. So what's misreported?
That's just in a month.
Which part of that is misreported? The amount that we collected, the amount that we charged off, the amount that we financed. I mean, which is off? Don't we need to know? I mean, I know that dealer needs to know.
I mean, So there's a need.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what we're finding frequently is that dealers are some of the best maverick entrepreneurs there are out there, which means they're gonna figure out how to do it, and and so when people will say, well, it should be done like this, it's like, well, on some of the how you do different operational things, it's like for every dealer out there, there is probably equal amount of business models, because they do things a little bit differently. So we're trying to get to a point where, in reporting, in V8, and just for dealers, we can compare apples to apples and not apples to pomegranates.
Right.
So I mean, it's still a fruit. It's got seeds in it. It's round, kind of. But so that's what is the driver behind this.
It's one of,
and then the other part is that dealers, what we're finding is that a lot of dealers, unless they're numbers nerds, which is a very small percentage of the industry, dealers don't really have a full grasp on their numbers.
Right.
And that's not an indictment. And it's very similar to, when we talk about basic budgeting skills that we want our customers to have, and they just don't know because they were never taught.
Mhm.
This can be something that's kind of um uh akin to that, is that the dealers haven't really been taught, because they're mavericks. They're figuring it out as they go along about how they look at numbers, how they gather numbers, what the numbers mean, how you can chart trends,
Yeah.
all of those kind of things. And I know our friends at Butler Sanchez and stuff like that they're just like, yeah, let's get things a little bit standardized, so it just makes some of this easier for people to be able to see how things are working in their dealership.
And I always kind of throw in a caveat around standardization. I just don't think standardization is a reasonable target in buy here, pay here. I just don't think you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have apples to apples. Now, if you start getting this report so that multiple DMS providers have it, then you would have those dealers be more consistent, but they're still not going to be standard. And here's why: their processes internally are going to vary. So you're never going to be able to dictate to dealers how to and I've had conversations just this week about people have their own ideas about how they want to process repos or whatever else. It's like, okay, well, just know that your numbers aren't really going to correlate with the rest of the industry. When you look at your portfolio performance, it's not going to mean much compared to what the other. So I can't tell you, with these, when dealers do this. And so let me give you the reasons. Like, the reasons we think this is going to be important is, one is portfolio performance. Like, if you just forget about V8 and 20 groups and all the reasons that people need that for those kind of services, I'm just saying, for a dealer to be able to sit at their desk and be able to run a report that says, how did our portfolio perform last month or this year? This report is going to be one of the single best reports that you could generate to have the key numbers that would be step one in portfolio analysis. And so this is why we know it's so important for us to provide that information, because we don't have to go into it today, but all those numbers that would appear as these line items on this report that we're requesting, those would be the best indicators that you would take those numbers and move them over into something that could be used to measure portfolio analysis and or performance. And that's one reason to have it. The other one is really just as a way to start to identify leakage. It might be theft, it might be mismanagement, but like the dealer with the $400,000 in September, do they know where that $400,000 went?
I mean,
belongs?
What bucket is it sitting in, or did it leave the building?
Did we collect it? Great. Then we had a good collection month. Did we not collect it? I don't know. It's like, I don't know. So it's like the software's got to help us more. And this is why I say it's not that the software's calculating it incorrectly. They're just, what that report that I sent highlighted is that dealers don't know how to get to this information. We're asking them for this basic information. Again, here it is, basic information. What did you open the month with? What did you add? What did you collect? What did you charge off? Any other adjustments? That should balance. When we do the math, that should balance what the report said at the end of the month.
So this is what I'm hearing from you, though. This is a high level way of kind of looking to see if there is a misappropriation, put in the wrong category, leakage, theft. And, we've had conversations. It's probably been over a year since we had a conversation around theft in a dealership, and it's not uncommon, but it's usually not at 6 digits.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon that somewhere along the line that someone has had their hand in the cookie jar and has figured out how to. When we had Karsten's from what firm is they from?
Shilson Goldberg, SGA.
Yeah. We had him on the show a while ago, and so they're an accounting firm and they do forensics, and it's like, you would be amazed at the creativity that there is on that. So, but
some of that happens off the DMS. So what we're talking about here
this is just the DMS,
but this just basically kind of ties into the portfolio performance. When I can look at that month over month and I can say, my collection performance, as far as how much money we collected relative to how much money or how much portfolio we started the month with, that's a number that I can track now. When I have this report, I can track it on an ongoing basis, and I can begin to see, and I can know that it's a good number.
And be able to, we talk about tracking things, measuring things.
Sure.
And this is a really baseline measurement for a dealership to look at trends,
right.
To look at averages. It's like, so when you have a month that's a lot lower, but then you can overlay it from something that you've been looking at. If you've been looking at this report for the last couple of years, you can see if this is just a seasonal trend, if this is a portfolio trend that is that's moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And so I said, if we can get the report to just reconcile so that we can put the dollars in certain buckets so that we know this makes us balance. And I would expect that when I ran this report and you see that closing principal, I would expect to see that on my balance sheet. So when I look at my balance sheet for my finance company and my dealership and look at how many receivables, it should match.
It should match that number. Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't it? Like, what would prevent that from? So if I'm a lender and I'm just looking at these reports and I can see that my performance reports correlate with my financials, which correlate with my other analysis, then that's ultimately where we want to be. We just want to make sure that we're tying things together neatly. I mean, that's kind of step one in accounting typically. So that's the last piece of what I'm suggesting here is that because this report really should it should reflect all the movement in principal across a calendar month. And while it's not there to do accounting, the entries that result, the summarized totals in those respective categories should be useful to the accountants, right? I mean, they're relevant numbers. When you know how much principal you collected in your portfolio and your finance company and your discount rate's been the same, and it's pretty easy to arrive at your discount, at least as it relates to collections and so on. We don't need to get that deep into accounting, but it's like being able to track it in that way. So why don't we get to we're almost 30 minutes in.
So we wanted to give an update, and one of the things that we committed to was that as a DMS does this and also it's verified, then we will have them on the show.
And I think we have our first official one. I think that
we have another one that we just have to do a little bit of just making sure that it does balance out with we can see from our end that it does balance out.
Let me give those updates. Let me just go. I'm going to list all of the DMS providers that we were familiar with, that we sent an invitation to. Now, there may be some others there that we were familiar with, but we couldn't find any contact information for them. They're lesser known, systems. But the first one is Abcoa Deal Pack. They're out of Jacksonville, Florida. Been around for many years. We have a handful of dealers in our V8 that are using them. I've been working directly with Ashton Azizi over there, and Ashton has met with me a couple times. We've exchanged a couple of emails. They are quite close. I mean, they're just finishing out a couple little things, and he's asked some really some great clarifying questions, and I feel confident that they're going to have the software or have that report available soon. And so they've actually we've provided a couple names of dealers that will serve as kind of guinea pigs, if you will, and test it with them. But it looks like Deal Pack will have that available soon. Then you've got Auto Manager, who is a smaller company. They're newer. And I haven't heard from them. We had a conversation directly with them. They requested the information and some months ago, and I haven't heard a word. AutoMaster Systems, that's Mike Downey out of Houston. And AMS is
a friend of ours, AMS.
Yeah, we know Mike. And so Mike indicated by email that they had they thought they were done. They didn't remember that when we last met with them, there was some final calculations to figure out. And so they feel like they've got it working. Yeah. And now they just want a mutual.
When he felt like it was done, that was like couple of months ago.
I don't remember exactly when we met with his developer.
They're right there.
But just need to do some verification. Mike was one of the first ones to step in and said, "Yeah, we'll make that happen."
Thank you.
I mean, they definitely want to try to satisfy that, and so they believe they have it working. And so what we have to now do is find a dealer that, and so we got any AMS listeners that want to serve
Yeah.
as guinea pigs, somebody that
Yeah.
knows us,
Let us know.
especially, let's work together and get that tested and verified, because what we want to do is verify it, confirm that it matches against other reports in the system, and then we'll invite them on the podcast so we can
Absolutely.
tell the story.
Absolutely.
And so again, I'll be reaching out to Michael Sansone about that with theirs. That's DCS. We'll get to them. Automatrix is somebody, we got a confirmation. They were in our initial email. Automatrix confirmed and said, yes, they were on it, I think was the phrasing they used, but I haven't heard a word since. That was June. So I haven't heard anything that's happened there. And they've been included in the follow-up emails here and there. And then AutoPal is a company that I don't hear. I've barely met a couple of dealers over the years that work with them, but we strive to include them in the invitation. We just didn't have an address. We don't know who to talk to. This is one of those examples when we don't know the people behind the product, and so we don't know who to talk to over there. If we've got an AutoPal listener who's
let us know.
knows how to find them, then by all means let us know. The next one is Dealer Center. We talked to them at the conference after having sent the email. We've got a couple of emails of people to talk to there. No response, really. No acknowledgement of the request officially by email, and we haven't seen anything change on that. We're not having luck reconciling principal in their system with some of the dealers that we're working with now. And in fact, I just sent one back to a dealer recently that was off by about $300,000 for January through August. And so I sent it back to them saying, you guys work with your rep or whoever to kind of figure out where this $300,000 is. And I haven't heard back from them, but I haven't heard from Dealer Center. DCS is Dealer Controlled Solutions. They're the one that was originally, I don't know what maybe the original name, but that's AFS was Auto.
Rick Reeves.
Yeah, it was Rick Reeves' company. He sold it to the Sansones in New Jersey. And so they were DCL or Dealer Controlled Leasing. Now they've renamed to DCS, Dealer Controlled Solutions. And so I had some email exchanges with Michael and Virginia over there. And Virginia sent the kind of the backup. She even sent me screenshots of how the dealers can go in and find it in the system. So if we've got DCS listeners, that report is available.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you try it out and verify, with your own stuff how that part works. And I think the thing I didn't ask clearly, I know in my virtual meeting with them way back that I think they indicated that it should work the same for leasing. I didn't say that about DealPack. That Ashton did tell me at DealPack that he thought what they were creating should work the same for leasing
and
lease
for
or payer. And of course, these are things we just want to test and verify that it's capturing that principal balance and kind of matching up throughout the month. So again, DCS, we believe, will be the first one that we invite on a White Hat Wednesday. We'll just need to coordinate with them and get a time for Michael probably to come and appear. And
do a warm introduction so people can get to know who they are and just people behind the company.
And just say, here, they did it. We asked for it. They did it. They're not charging their users for it.
Yeah.
It's like they just,
we're looking forward to having Mike on the show really soon too.
Yeah. And then Fraser Computing, we don't really know anybody there. We did talk to them, and they're the ones that you said had indicated that because they have some priority projects on their roadmap, that it would likely be the first of the year before they would pick that up.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. I mean, we obviously wish we could report better news to our Fraser people, but because our Fraser people also struggle to reconcile. Again, not that the software is wrong or that a single calculation in there is incorrect. That's not what we're suggesting. We're simply saying that when we ask dealers for that information that I showed on the screen, they apparently don't know where to find it. They don't know where to capture the numbers.
Again, it's, when you can start to see that, it's education. And people don't know what they don't know, and they don't even know what questions to ask to get to some of the stuff. So
sometimes I think that get that DMS providers, and just this is a broad statement, but I think there are a lot of the DMS people don't fully understand because they're not analysts at the end of the day. They're tech people and designers, whatever. So they don't really recognize the importance of this particular batch of information. And so this is why we just want to keep beating this drum until we have it available for more dealers. And then I've got Wayne Reeves. We talked to Wayne Reeves. We met with their people there.
I've had father and son there.
And I've had
national
dialogue with Kevin Scott. Kevin did send an email this week saying that they were They were working on it, and so they expected to have that soon. So they are aware, and they are actively working to try to get that in place. And so we do want to see, and we look forward to being able to announce that theirs is working and verified, and that we can have them on the broadcast as well. Then there's a company called ComSoft. I know at least one dealer using them. They're and I just thought of another one that we don't have any contact information for, but there's still a product out there called Constellation that I don't have any contact information for them. So if we got anybody listening that uses that system and wants us to reach out to them, then let us know who to talk to there, and we'll pass that along to them as well. But ComSoft is the one that is. I have a dealer on the East Coast who's using them. I'm not familiar. I don't know how their system works or who their people are. So same thing. If we can find out who their people are, we'd be happy to talk to them. And then the only other one that I have listed that we've included on our communication up to now is IDMS Dealer Socket. I was provided by a rep the name of one of the folks on the development team, and so I included them in a couple emails since, and I haven't heard from them. So they're obviously a big company, and I think what this
the bigger the company, the more difficult it is to make a turn and to shift stuff,
which is unfortunate.
Too.
But it's kind of, I think this is something that we recognize that this is something to consider when you're choosing a DMS system.
And something that we would advise someone to consider.
Yeah.
These are the ones that can get you to the reporting that you need. Right. These are the ones that have good this. And
And, we have enough experience with some of these systems over the years that we can now tell dealers exactly which reports to run. In some cases, you have to customize a report a little bit to get a column of data that you really need to balance precisely. But yeah, that's the thing that we just think that, those bigger companies have not been particularly responsive about some of this stuff. And so we'd like to see them also step in there and do that. But hopefully by, starting to feature and highlight some of these folks on the podcast who are making it happen, then, folks will start to recognize that, it is going to start to help dealers. It will sway dealers in their decision as they move toward making their next, software change.
Or for their first week. Jim has worked in the space of bringing people into the business, and so those are really important. Because your DMS is really the first big thing that you determine, because from that it's you look at what integrates, and so like if you want a specific GPS because you're just dead set that that's what you want, then it's like, which ones integrate with it and which ones
makes it more convenient. It's not required.
Yeah.
It's not essential, but it's going to make life more, life easier in a lot of ways when you have those integrations. So integrations are certainly something that we look at, but structurally, I'm just trying to make sure that we can identify all the numbers, and that's mostly coming from me as an analyst, trying to make sure, one, can we know how we're doing as a business?
Yeah.
Does our DMS really give us all the information we need to really know how we're doing?
We got a comment from a friend of ours, Jonathan Yargi.
Oh yeah.
The technology available to dealers is certainly falling short, and relying on a collection of integrations will never replace a fully embedded tech stack. The significant opportunity here, especially for the independent dealer space. Yes, and there, there are a lot of things that integrate well and play nice. And the fully embedded tech stack. I understand that terminology because of the space that
Jonathan's so fancy.
I love. Yeah, I know, right? So it's like Jonathan, we lost quite a bit of the audience here in understanding what that means. But yes, and it's the fully integrated tech stack. And I'm that's a nice thing to be able to have. Sometimes you're put in a box and you can't move from those things that are within the box, and that poses another problem. So sometimes you can have a fully integrated tech stack that has pieces that you can move, and sometimes it's not like that. So and we there's a couple of DMSs that we've worked with that are not friendly, as friendly as others to create a fully integrated piece
Yeah.
to their
Yeah.
DMS.
Yeah, for sure. So,
So
I
hi,
think
Jonathan. It's good
yeah,
to see you.
glad to have you tune
Yeah.
in this morning. So yeah, that's all good. I think, we're just going to continue to try to spread the word about that and show the progress that's being made. And, and we're pleased to report that there is some progress out there.
Yes.
And
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for dealers out there listening, if you are a dealer for some of those that we're still waiting on, please feel free to reach out to
Yeah.
them
and to us and let us know.
And again, we're looking for someone to test
Mhm.
for AMS
Right.
too. So yeah,
I've
if
got
there's
some
a
people I
dealer
can
out there
email that aren't necessarily V8 dealers or current clients, but people I've known are past clients, and we can talk to them about possibly getting them to run the test. And once we can verify it, I'd love to have Mike Downey on
So
the
we'll
show.
be reaching out though to DCS. There's so many acronyms, and I don't know about you, but I mean, I always have to look at Jim. It's so hard for me to keep them all straight, but that we'll be reaching out to them to set up a time to have them come, and then we're anticipating that AMS will be right on its heels.
Yeah. It looks like they're they feel like it's done. We just need to test it.
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
so
what else we got? Anything?
I don't think I have anything today. Just a reminder before we close up about the dealer forum. I'll put the thing on the screen again. Hit the NIADA website on BHPH dealer forum. Today's the last day to get that $200 discount. So get yourself registered.
Those of you who didn't have a chance to watch the episode we did last week with Jeff Martin, that it's a different format. Last year they tested it out. It went really, really well. And so this is this is a much more focused conversation with dealers about, based on their size and the things that they are looking to do. And it's kind of like the hot topic. So, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you making us a part of your week. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and thank you especially for joining us for White Hat Wednesday.
Don't forget, Friday we're talking recon, how to turn your cars faster.
Friday we're talking about recon.
Yep.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks again so much for joining.